was an expert in crypto. He taught crypto at the university, and many of those in the crypto business did not like him, did not want him because he knew
Yeah.
too much. And he wanted guardrails. And he was absolutely the one who I believe should be in position to deal with securities as we understand them. Crypto is a security, it is not a commodity. And that's what the fight is all about, commodity versus security. And I don't know who can fill those shoes, but we'll have to see. Well, let me tell you, I've worked very closely with McHenry where we've tried to get stablecoin. Our efforts have been about guardrails. We are not opposed to legitimate legislation that appears to be in the best interest of the people of this country. And there may be some crypto that would like to have guardrails. If there are guardrails that we can agree to, working with all of the entities that are interested in and a part of developing crypto if we're ever going to get there. And that means the Treasury, that means the Federal Reserve, that means the SEC. That means all of these agencies have to come together with the president on crypto in order to have something that will have guardrails and will not just be determined by the fact that crypto companies are trying to invade all of our financial services members with large contributions, et cetera, et cetera. We know what's going on, and we think now they're going to have an opportunity to learn more about what crypto really is and how it works in this digital economy that we're involved in. So we've got a lot of understanding, a lot of searching out, and a lot of educating to do. And if we can work with anyone who's willing to do that and provide these guardrails, I'm ready. And I think some of my members are. And I do believe that some of the members who voted for the crypto legislation that you're talking about will know more now about what they voted for and be a lot more skeptical than they were when they decided that they would give it a chance, that they would go ahead and vote in ways that they didn't quite understand. But I don't think that'll be the case anymore.
Well, I think there's a couple of things going on. First of all, when you talk about corporations, historically, they've had two levers to pull in terms of improving their business. They can drive more revenue or they can cut expenses. What Michael Saylor really introduced is this idea of taking your balance sheet and creating a third lever that you can pull. It's not really that new. Real estate has been doing this for a long time where they use that to secure loans and do other things. It's just that we haven't thought of software companies or others being able to do the same thing. And so now you have an asset that obviously is growing very quickly. There's only 21 million of them, and it seems to be working out. Now, what I do think is interesting is because there's only 21 million of these, anyone who buys it, if there's increased demand, the price goes up. And so, we had a fund that was anchored by two public pension funds that we raised in 2018. We bought Bitcoin around $5,500 for those public pension funds. They're up really big on it. And so I do think that anytime you buy an asset, whether it's Bitcoin stocks, commodities, real estate, et cetera, and it goes up a lot, it will help close those funding gaps. Now, what I do think is really important, though, is Bitcoin in particular was a bottoms-up adoption story. So historically, technologies are top-down. Governments and militaries adopt it first, then corporations, and eventually individuals. Here, you actually had individuals first. The reason why that's important is Bitcoin is the only asset that I know of in financial markets. As the price goes up, it becomes less risky. And so now you have the biggest pools of capital showing up and saying, it now is only big enough where I can start to buy it. And so you have central banks, you have public pension funds, et cetera, that are saying, okay, now we're getting close to $2 trillion. I can start allocating to this thing. And so individuals front ran it, but the largest pools of capital still are heavily under allocated to this asset. I think it's going to be very good for price.
So to augment a fixed income investment for an insurance company or pension, there's some underlying Bitcoin that has to rise. I think he said over a 4-year period, it has to rise 6% per year. Remember that? That's what it said. And you'd break even on that. Anything above that, you're augmenting the return because rates have been obviously so low for a lot of these fiduciaries that are trying to guarantee retirees or whatever, a certain income. So you would take that bet. You don't think it's going to be 50,000 in 4 years.
Well, what I think is really important is if you go and you look at the data of putting just a little bit of Bitcoin, you don't have to put a lot of Bitcoin. We can put 1% of Bitcoin into a portfolio. It not only has the price appreciation, but it also drastically improves Sharpe ratios and many other aspects that these fiduciaries look at. Now, I do think that the underfunding or that funding gap for public pension funds and many other these large pools of capital is drastically under-discussed. What are they going to do? Right? They don't have many options. And so it doesn't mean that you should go and throw a Hail Mary and put 50% of your fund into, some risky asset. But it does mean that if you can take a risk reward asset, which according to Fidelity has been the best risk reward asset over the last 10 years, and you can put that in your portfolio. We're talking about right now you have it at zero. Just get off zero and put some.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we have Maxine Waters on Gary Gensler. He was a crypto expert. And we know for a fact he was. When he was at MIT, he said majority of these cryptos were not securities. And then when he gets hired by the SEC, majority of these cryptos are securities. Yes, guys, you can't make this stuff up. Well, Maxine Waters says that they just want guardrails for these stable coins and crypto. And we know regulation is definitely coming this year. And she says it right out of her own mouth, the digital economy. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we have pump on Michael Saylor leveraging Bitcoin. And we know, guys, eventually it's not going to end well, but it's just part of the plan. Don't forget Morgan Stanley, BlackRock has invested in MicroStrategy. You just have to get your popcorn, sit back, and let it play out, because we have Michael Saylor again buying about $5 billion worth of Bitcoin. Now we have Jim Cramer on Trump's tariffs. But what he doesn't talk about is a machine takeover. And that's the reason why he keeps talking about tariffs, because if you don't have a job, you're not going to be able to pay taxes. You got to get taxes from somewhere, and that's where they're going to get them from, tariffs. Remember, there's nothing new under the sun. We've seen this movie before. And if we have Besson that actually gets the Treasury job, we know he is a George Soros guy, so he already knows the plan. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And we have the U.S. sending out a warning when it comes to Russian cyber threats. And remember, guys, when the drums get to beating, it's no longer physical. And these cyber threats are real. And the movies are just beginning. And we have all charges dropped when it comes to Trump. And again, the movie is going to be stepped up because a lot of those who voted for Trump think he's the savior. But we know his job is to land us in this fourth industrial revolution, where the robots, algorithms, and drones take the economy over, pay each other with crypto, and the sheep go inside the metaverse. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
He likes being rated. He likes to win. He wants that stock market to go up to ratify his performance. That's a big reason why the market exploded higher when he won. But soon after the election, we heard that the euphoria was over. You heard that, right? You heard the whole thing. The market was dead. Because while Wall Street loves a Republican trifecta, it doesn't love Trump's tariff proposals. Tariffs are basically a selective sales tax that only applies to imports, and the countries that get hit with them tend to retaliate. Very unpopular on Wall Street. Now, enter Scott Besson. He is a consensus candidate, very different from the kind of guy we thought could get the job. A measured former hedge fund manager who formerly worked for George Soros, of all people. Besson's he's a pure surprise. He's the kind of pick you make if you're trying to be as reasonable and responsible as possible. Part of the modern firmament that stands for the money classes, but also those who aspire to be a part of them. What does Besson give you besides a good pedigree and sop to those who want things to be somewhat normal? Well, he brings the 333 policy. That's borrowed from former Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, someone who's been revered for putting the sullen Japanese economy on firm footing back in 2010. It was called the Three Arrows plan back there. 3 arrows, 333, how's it work? We have an out-of-control budget deficit in this country. Something that should give us pause. $1.8 trillion alone in this fiscal year that ended in September. That's insane, but not nearly as insane as the $36 trillion in national debt that we have run up with no obvious way to pay it down. Anyone who tried to put pen to paper during the Trump campaign figured that he'd take the already busted budget and bust it even worse, if that was possible. I know that the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, in their postmortem, disliked Vice President Harris's how she presented herself as the saner person when it came to the budget. Because why? Goldman Sachs said she was.
We should be very concerned because what we're learning from these reports is that the operatives are getting very creative. So instead of doing the things that we're used to them doing, they're actually leveraging cyber criminal syndicates, physical world criminal syndicates, and they're leveraging insiders. And so it really makes it hard to protect against something like this when they're using sort of an all of the above multiple choice playbook.
Speak to this idea of using insiders and the physicality of it all, because historically it was something we thought about hacking. We always thought it was electronic.
Right. And now they know that a lot of companies have done really great work here with beefing up their staffs, beefing up their security. So they're looking for opportunities to recruit insiders. But there is something that companies can do about this. So they can be looking at failed login attempts, looking at accounts that are trying to log into different parts of systems that they shouldn't be accessing. You know, they're not working on those projects, for example. They can be using AI for anomaly detection, again, doing sort of a behavioral-based analytics of what is a typical profile of our employee, of our third-party vendor contractors, because the supply chain is definitely a weak link in the security chain. And then they can also be looking at sort of unusual behaviors, and those can be captured if you have a really robust insider threat program.
So when you have this idea of these insiders trying to take this stuff, how are they finding the insiders to effectively pay off to do this?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of the recruiting happens on LinkedIn. This is a great place for all of us to stay connected and share information and be connected to our colleagues in the industry and learn from them. But it's also a place where cyber criminals and nation state operatives can recruit. Some individuals who are doing this a lot of times don't know who they're working for. They may not even realize that they're being duped into doing some of the insider threats. So you have knowing insiders who...
Hold on. Go backwards now. How would you not know if you're being asked to effectively, go into a file and get it and send it to somebody? How would you not know that that's what you're doing?
They may not know they're doing that for nation states or cyber criminal syndicates. They may think that they're actually providing information to be featured in a research paper. I mean, there are all different types of techniques and tactics being used. This is why an insider threat education and awareness program is so helpful. So, for example, reminding employees on a regular basis that company proprietary information is exactly just that. And even if you think a researcher or somebody at a conference is reaching out to you to ask for information, that there should be internal protocols where that has to be approved before that information can be provided.
A former president indicted on federal charges, and it seems like almost just as quickly and just as historically, it all goes away because the American people voted for him.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. We saw similar things happening last week as well. I mean, it's over with. This is a done deal at this point. Jack Smith said that it was categorical that presidents have immunity in these instances. It's not a surprise given that he won the election. Just practically, he would be 81 years old when he leaves office. It would have been about 4, 5, 6 years since this all had transpired as well. So even from a practical standpoint, aside from just the immunity in office, it just doesn't seem feasible.
Yeah, and of course, in the New York case in which he was convicted, that sentencing has been postponed indefinitely, but he was a convicted felon, became one in New York, Julie, and ultimately he still was able to win the Electoral College and the popular vote. He effectively used all of these indictments and ultimately his conviction as a way to benefit his campaign.
Absolutely. They were always big fundraisers, too, as you remember. Right after that happened, the fundraising email would go out, and the former president, now soon to be president again, raising a lot of money off of them. But Mario, you hit it right there on the head. It's over. He's going to be president. There's clearly presidential immunity in these cases, according to Jack Smith. And so that's why this has happened.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box, provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of the huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 kids books, It's Time to Re-Educate. Also, if new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance, do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.